The sound was sharp enough to slice through music, laughter, and conversation in a single instant. 50 guests fell silent. My name is Katrina. I'm 32 years old, and that night, I learned exactly how worthless I was to my own family. It happened during Thanksgiving at our Park City villa. Everything looked perfect on the surface: wealthy guests, expensive wine, polished smiles. I was walking carefully through the crowded room, balancing a tray of vintage red wine, trying not to draw attention to myself. Then suddenly, a drunk guest slammed into me. The tray tilted, the wine spilled, and it landed directly on my sister Bianca's pristine white silk dress. For a split second, everything froze. Then, without hesitation, slap, her hand struck my face so hard my vision blurred. My cheek burned instantly. I tasted blood. "Are you blind?" she screamed, her voice echoing through the room. Every single guest watched. No one moved. No one spoke. My mother rushed forward, but not to me. She grabbed the stained fabric, panicking over the dress like it mattered more than anything else. Then she turned to me, her face twisted with disgust. "Apologize, right now, or leave." I looked at my father. Just once, I thought maybe he would stand up for me. Instead, he walked to the door, opened it, and waited. That was my answer. No argument, no defense, no hesitation. I walked out into the freezing night without saying a word, because deep down, I knew this wasn't just humiliation. This was the end. But what they didn't know, what none of them realized, was that the girl they just threw out into the snow owned everything they were standing on, and by morning, their entire world was going to collapse. But how does one slap turn into total destruction overnight? That's where the real story begins. The snowstorm was brutal, but I barely noticed it. My hands gripped the steering wheel as I drove through the dark mountain roads, my cheeks still stinging, but something else was taking over now. Not sadness, not anger, clarity, cold, precise clarity. Because while they were inside that villa, enjoying their perfect lives, they had forgotten one very important truth. 5 years ago, my father lost everything. The market crashed. His business collapsed. Debt swallowed him whole. And do you know who saved them? Me. I was the one who bought that villa quietly, secretly, so their wealthy friends would never find out they were broke. I was the one who funded Bianca's boutique business when she had nothing but expensive taste and zero discipline. I was the one who paid their bills, protected their image, and kept their lives intact. And in return, I got a slap. I got thrown out. I got treated like I didn't exist. By the time I reached my penthouse, my decision was already made. I walked straight to my office, pulled aside a painting, and opened the hidden safe. Inside was a leather folder, the truth they had ignored for years. I placed it on the desk and opened it slowly. Property documents, loan agreements, legal clauses, every single line, carefully written, carefully signed. I traced my finger over one sentence. Sole owner, Katrina Miller. That house, mine. They were living there under my permission. Then I flipped to Bianca's business agreement, and there it was, a clause so simple, yet so powerful. If she damaged my reputation or dignity, every loan would be immediately due. Tonight, she didn't just insult me, she hit me, in front of witnesses. That wasn't just disrespect, that was a legal trigger. I picked up my phone. "Mr. Sterling," I said calmly, "we're activating everything. Tonight, no hesitation, no emotion, just execution." But what happens when a family wakes up and suddenly, everything they rely on is gone? The next morning changed their lives forever. The next morning, the house didn't wake up, it died. No heat, no lights, no internet. The luxurious villa, once warm and alive, turned into a freezing, silent shell within minutes. Bianca was the first to react. "Mom, the Wi-Fi isn't working," she shouted from upstairs, irritated, not worried. Typical. Even now, she didn't understand. Downstairs, my mother struggled with the thermostat. Nothing worked. My father flipped switches. Dead. Then Bianca tried to place an online order, probably another expensive distraction. But instead of confirmation, she saw transaction declined. She tried again. Another card. Same result. Frozen. Every account, every backup, gone. That's when panic started. But the real blow came seconds later. A black car pulled into the driveway. Not a technician, not help. A man in a suit. My father opened the door, expecting an explanation. Instead, he received a red envelope. Official, cold, final, inside, eviction notice, 30 days, and beneath it, asset, freeze, order. The silence that followed was different, not confusion, not anger, fear, because in that moment, they realized this wasn't a mistake. This was intentional. This was planned. This was me. They tried calling again, again, but I didn't answer, not once, because for the first time in my life, they were experiencing what it felt like to be ignored. But losing money was only the beginning, because what I discovered next was far worse than betrayal. It was something much darker. 2 days later, I sat in my office waiting, not for apologies, for proof. Rachel, my accountant and closest ally, walked in with files that felt heavier than they should. She didn't smile. That's when I knew. Look at this, she said quietly. I opened the reports, and my stomach dropped. Luxury resorts, gambling payments, fake invoices, money disappearing, not slowly, aggressively. Bianca wasn't just careless. She was stealing, systematically, carefully, repeatedly. Every page revealed something worse. Offshore accounts, fake vendors, withdrawals that made no sense. And then, the final document, approval signatures. I froze, because I recognized it instantly. My mother's signature. She knew. She didn't just ignore it. She approved it, helped hide it, helped steal from me. That moment hurt more than the slap, because this wasn't emotional. This was calculated betrayal. Then Rachel said something that changed everything again. She owes money to dangerous people, loan sharks. Suddenly, everything made sense. The spending, the panic, the lies. I had cut off her money 2 days ago, which meant she was now a target, not just financially, physically, and for the first time, I realized something terrifying. This situation wasn't over. It was escalating, because when desperate people lose everything, they don't stop, they make dangerous decisions. And Bianca was about to prove that. 3 days later, they showed up at my office, not calmly, not respectfully, desperate, loud, embarrassing. They created a scene in the lobby, shouting, accusing, pretending to be victims. I had them escorted upstairs, not to talk, to end it. Inside the conference room, everything was ready. Lawyer, recording, evidence. Bianca walked in first, but she wasn't the same person anymore. No arrogance, no pride, just fear. Unfreeze my accounts, she screamed. You don't understand. I didn't respond. I pressed a button. The screen behind me lit up. Transaction after transaction, proof after proof. Her face changed. Then my mother saw the signature slide. She collapsed into a chair. My father finally understood. Too late. This is family, he said weakly. We can fix this. I looked him in the eye. No, this is crime. Then I gave them a choice. Leave quietly, or face prison. They left, broken. But the story didn't end there. Because 1 week later, Bianca ran, stole their remaining money, disappeared, and eventually, got caught, arrested, facing years in prison. My parents, left with nothing. No money, no status, no daughter to protect them anymore. And me, I sold the villa, built something better, a life without them. Because sometimes, justice isn't about revenge. It's about finally choosing yourself. So tell me honestly, if you were in my place, would you have done the same? Or forgiven them?